This is the Streamlined Medieval Eldritch Dungeons and Dragons campaign channel. This is aimed at the DMs, at the Dungeon Masters, and this is strictly old school. It's presenting a very specific style of campaigning, and it's style not just instead of tone and setting of the campaign, but also in the mechanics, the game mechanics. But first of all, this is old school. By those who may not know old school, by going back to old school, this is basically first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and back to the original incarnation of the D&D game. I will hope to get further into this in another video, but it's basically just a grim and gritty D&D style. Streamlining. Let's talk about streamlining. The concept of this is how to have a make your homebrew campaign, essentially zone edition, with easy and simple rules. Easy rules, simple to follow, yet still D&D. In other words, while gaming is rules you could easily look up. You don't have to be looking at charts. There will be hardly any charts to look up on anything. There'll be rules that just will have sort of an organic feel in terms of the character progression and how they're applied. One aspect of the old school D&D that is not embraced in this system is the having subsystems of everything. Like there are different aspects of the games or the characters where every little rule had its own little subsystem made especially for that. Here we kind of generalize and use a broad system that can apply differently, and so you don't have to be looking up these different concepts. Just a couple straight, very simple rules, and the game runs smooth. It's just a simple game, but still Dungeons and Dragons. That way the game runs smooth. You don't have to be looking things up. There's hardly any interruption. And you can concentrate on the most important aspect of the game, which is just the narration of the game, the interaction with the players, and that's basically it. That's what streamlining is. The medieval element is closely tied to the old school. Old school having its influence on old stories, very much like the original Conan short stories, the Elric short stories. The protagonist isn't so much as a hero, almost an anti-hero, truly an anti-hero in many cases. Conan didn't go out to save anybody. He was just out to survive in a dangerous world. So that's the key thing to D&D. And part of medieval aspect is also these stories also borrow elements from real life history. And what defines the medieval ages, which were also known as the Dark Ages? Well, a big component of that was the fall of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire that had been seen as a beacon of civilization eventually came to its own demise. The empire crumbled and toppled, and the world had to rebuild itself, and without the shining light of what was seen as the pinnacle of civilization at its time. So there's an sense of decay, of falling into darker times, of having lost a lot of the knowledge and the wisdom of this great empire. In the dark times is the reason you call it dark is because you feel you have fallen into ignorance. The Romans were so advanced that all has been lost. It's almost as if humanity has to start all over again. That is a big component of the medieval campaign. And so what I was saying is that every aspect of that fallen culture, including its religion, is tied to that feeling. So all those old ruins and those old statues of Venus, of Mars, they will serve, and the ruins themselves, the Colosseums, they will serve as stark and gritty reminders of a golden age that's long gone. Adding to the whole Dark Ages will be disease, pestilence, famine, and war. If you think about it, the four biblical horsemen are pretty much what defined the Dark Ages. And even though Dungeons and Dragons did not specifically say this, it was everywhere in the style of the game. Like I said, the fight just for survival. You're not trying to save, you're not fighting for morals, you're not trying to go on a holy crusade, you're just trying to survive. So it is very similar, the campaign time is very similar to actual medieval Europe in that aspect. And so something, the equivalent of Christianity, doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same thing as ours, but something equivalent comes and takes over. And obviously there's the conflict of, if there's people who still follow the old gods, they obviously come into conflict with the new religion. So it creates all sort of intrigue. Because obviously we're also talking about the witch trials, the inquisitions, and the church beginning to claim hold and influence over the states, over the rulers. And it becomes a dominant religion. And the old gods are presumably forgotten. So that's another layer of the game that's very interesting. It creates a lot of intrigue. So more on that further down the road. And now to discuss the final element in the title, which is Eldritch. For those of you who may not know, Eldritch as a word would mean something strange or weird or supernatural, mystique, mysterious. Now, the reason between that is because of all the works that I have mentioned, Elric Conan and Lord of the Rings, there's also the H.P. Lovecraft influence upon the game. The horror, that old horror, gothic horror element, which is very different from the slasher films where it's just a guy, blood and guts everywhere. With the classic horror, again, since D&D is a game of the imagination, this just goes hand in hand because horror is about the things that you don't see, that your imagination conjures up. And it provokes your imagination, and it works little cogs and wheels of imagination, and it stimulates your imagination. It's just something that's really cool, something I always incorporate to my game. And that's what, the classic Call of Cthulhu stories are about. So that's elements is injected also into this concept. This is the concept of you describe the characters coming out of a room and they're panting and they're bloody and they're sweating and they part and they close the door really fast and they're just bewildered and they're speechless. You don't know what happened in the room, but you already know that something terrible happened in there, and your imagination is trying to find answers, because that's what as humans we do. Your mind tries to reel and seek for answers. What happened in that room? Their hands are bloodied, caked with mud as well. So this is what that element is. It is a very, very stimulating part of the game. And it's basically the concept of the mystery. It's always good to have mysteries, the unknown. That's what gets your curiosity going. That's what gets you. It's a very important, actually, it's an important element of the human psyche. To seek the unknown, to look into the unknown. That's what a lot of people out there looking for Bigfoot or believe in UFOs, and of course, even though there's no proof of any of that, it's still, people like a good mystery. And that's an element I think is very important to the game. If you went through a campaign and you already knew its history and how everything works, it'd be boring. It'd be flat. It'd be stale. But there's always little things that the characters don't know, and you wonder. It could be this. It could be that. It keeps things fresh. It keeps things exciting. So there'll always be in this campaign with that Eldritch elements. There'll always be mysteries. that not even the Dungeon Master has the answers to. So there are certain aspects of the game where Dungeon Master is just as much a participant of the sense of wonder and mystery of the game as the players. If you think about it, that's pretty interesting concept. To purposely leave something as a mystery even for yourself. Because yeah, the DM runs everything and he knows what's going on behind the scenes. But to have a secret so deep, not even he knows, and you purposely leave it out there because there are some things that you just should not demystify. It's always good to have mysteries. For instance, you look at the mysteries of Star Wars and things such as the Force and what is the Force. And you have a good notion of what the Force is in the original trilogy. And then the prequels come and they start with all this scientific explanation that just basically ruins it. It's distasteful. So again, these are the elements of the game. So there you have it. It is a dark age, medieval, grim and greedy, mysterious horror tone game with straightforward rules, easy to follow, easy to pick up and go and just have fun gaming. This is the concept. If interested, gentle viewers, stick around and we'll open the gates of Terra. More on that to follow.